Hey guys, welcome to 11.3 Europeans Claim Muslim Lands. We're actually going to do this by looking at two PowerPoints. I just held two fingers up, not that you can see them. There's the number two. Alright, so where are we going to go? We're going to go into here and we're going to look at why Europe got involved in Muslim lands. So, why did the power of the Ottoman Empire decrease? Weak leadership. In the next PowerPoint, you're going to see a guy named Suleiman I who passed away. There's infighting without the government, there's corruption, there's inflation, and it failed to modernize. The Ottoman Empire was caught well behind on the Industrial Revolution and wasn't able to catch up with Europe. What are geopolitics? You'll see this a lot. Basically, an interest in taking of land for its strategic location or its products. Nobody ever wants to take over Canada because it's not strategically located, and no offense, maple syrup, not that strategic. Today, what does this look like? Oil. It looks like the Middle East. Alright, and we'll talk about that extensively. Why was the land of the Ottoman Empire so desirable to other countries? Why is it wanted? It was pretty. No. The territory was strategic for trade routes, especially countries like Russia that had no water access to the Mediterranean. Oil deposits in Persia also made the territory desirable. So it's the cool thing everybody's fighting over. Everybody wants it. It has a ton of advantages. Which war was fought between Russia and the Ottoman Empire in 1853? It is known as the Crimean War. Russia, Ottoman, Crimean. There's an R there, and notice what place did Russia come in the war? They came in second. It was fought because Russia wanted Ottoman lands on the Black Sea and Mediterranean for a warm water port. What do you think when you think of Russia? Cold. What happens to water when it gets cold? Freezes. So, what happens is the Russians say we need warm water ports. Basically places where we can put our boats. They ain't gonna freeze. Yeah, that helps. Sorry. So here we go. Which countries aided the Ottomans against the Russian? The French and British. So who wins? 3 always beats 1. Who won the Crimean War? The Ottomans, the French, and the British. And we'll talk later why the French and the British picked the side they do. What were the firsts? You see the first women serve as nurses, newspaper reporters cover the front lines. Alright, what happened to the Ottoman Empire after the Crimean War? Rebellions and wars continued to decrease the power and the size of the government. Basically, after the Crimean War, everybody realizes, wait a second, the Ottoman Empire is really pretty weak. Even their people did. So Russia, failing that, get involved in the Great Game. And what do we talk about the Great Game? Fighting over India. Alright, and we'll talk about this in greater extent in 11.4. Where did most of the fighting take place? In Afghanistan. Afghanistan's right there. Alright, Afghanistan's the purple area. Gee, I can't imagine living in a time period where this area is controversial. This area people fight over for sea and oil access. Oh, wait. How did the Great Game finally come to an end? Britain agreed to not pass the Khyber Pass, and Russia agreed to leave Afghanistan alone. Here you see a picture of that territory. What leader of Egypt broke away from the Ottoman Empire? So remember, Egypt had been part of the Ottoman Empire. Then this is awesome. Muhammad Ali, not the boxer, but the ruler, breaks away and says, nope, we are going to have our own country, and expanded his control over Syria, Arabia with a war. What changes did he make? Modernized. He went after growing cash crops, which then he took the money and bought better weapons and helped Egypt greatly. How was the promotion of cotton production similar to the imperialist actions in Africa? Both substitute for production of cash crops for food crops, and again led to a little bit of famine, which we'll talk about again a little. What reforms? He brought irrigation, he brought communication, and he brought the Suez Canal. We'll talk about the Suez Canal in a moment. What led the British to occupy Egypt? The failure of the Egyptians to pay their debts owed to Britain for loans that built the Suez Canal. So the Egyptians want to build the Suez Canal. They need money to do it. The British loan them money. The Egyptians are unable to pay back, so the British say, you know what we'll take? We'll take the Suez Canal. Basically, what the Suez Canal does is radically change shipping throughout the world. I don't like this picture. I don't know if it helps you any. We'll see a better one in a minute. Which modern day country was previously called Persia? Take a guess right now. Begins with an I? No. Try again. Yes, Iran. Good job. Which countries fought for a sphere of influence in Persia? Britain and Russia. Why'd they do it? Oil and protection from India. For India. Why did the Russians want it? They wanted oil and access to the sea. You'll see why in a minute. Why did the Persian leader begin selling access to Persian lands and resources? To raise capital for modernization. We're going to skip through that. We're not going to waste our time. Why was the conflict between? Basically, people did not like the change and feared losing control of their country. They didn't want the West involved. What happened in Persia resulted in the tobacco riots? The tobacco concession was canceled. What was the long-term result of continuing unrest in Persia? Persian leaders lost control of the country to Britain and Russian spheres of influence. See the Russian bear, the English lion, sitting, controlling. I guess that's a fox, cat, lion majigger. So let's go and look at the PowerPoint I had done for you. And you'll see a lot of these same themes again. Alright, we did that. Awesome. Before we start, I want you to think about this kind of vocabulary method called the Freyer or the four-corner method. In one corner you put your definition. An example, draw a picture, non-example. The term can either go there or at the top. So here you see imperialism. Imperialism is when one country bullies another country. Who did it happen to? India and Africa. There's the word. There's a picture clearly showing imperialism. Who didn't experience imperialism from being imperialized? England and Germany. Here you see another one for social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. That's natural selection. There you see that. Awesome picture of antler wars, which is much more fun than thumb wars. Helping all, including the weak, is a non-example. So this bottom right is the non. So why did the Muslims lose power? So European nations expand their empires by seizing Muslim lands. Notice what do you see about Muslim lands? Good. What else? Yep, exactly. This should look familiar. What you see in the green here is basically the Ottoman Empire as its biggest. That is gargantuan, tough to rule. You see here this area that we talked about already is going to become Egypt. Alright? You can see where Greece was, you can see where Serbia was, and they're all eventually going to break away. You can see Greece there. Alright? The orange is what it looked like when it began. Imagine how difficult it would be to rule a nation this big, or an empire this big. So what happens? In 1566, it starts to shrink. Why? Suleiman I, probably their most dynamic, most popular ruler, dies. They'd failed to modernize. They're behind the times. Greece, Serbia break away, and European powers are starting to sniff around, see what they've got. Again, Suleiman's attempt to reform failed, and again, any attempt to modernize doesn't work. So we go back to that term geopolitics, taking land for strategic importance and ability to produce, for instance, oil, for instance, gold. Think about where all the wars you've ever studied happen. They happen for places that are either important or make important stuff. Again, there's no maple syrup war in Canada. Alright? So here you see a four-corner definition. This picture is pretty cool. You see how the tentacles of this evil octopus are reaching around. Awesome. Why was the Ottoman Empire so important? Oil and access to sea trade routes. So Russia attacks in 1853. Again, Russia warm water port. Here's the key thing that other PowerPoints don't mention. Russia loses that war. They end up getting a little bit of land, as you can see here in this fourth bullet. But the Crimean War, Russia versus the Ottoman Empire, who came in second? Russia came in second. If it's a war between people and you come in second, you're a loser, baby. Great song, by the way. So Russia seeks Ottoman land. They want warm water port. Again, Russia, cold, freezing water, bad for boats. Titanic, Jack Rose. So the Russians lose the war. But the Ottoman Empire is shown to be weak. So where do we go from here? The Russians don't get what they want, so they fight over India. As you know, as you know, the British are going to eventually take a large interest in India. Who else breaks away from the Ottoman Empire? Is Muhammad Ali breaks away from the Ottoman Empire to control and rule Egypt. So the Ottoman Empire, really, really big, starts to fall apart. Why did it start to fall apart? Because it didn't modernize. What does our boy Muhammad Ali do? He says we're the greatest of all time. That's a boxing joke, people. He reforms the military and the economy. He shifts Egyptian crops from food crops to cash crops. To this day, I think like really, really, really fancy sheets, really, really fancy clothing are made from Egyptian cotton. When did that start? Under Muhammad Ali. What do people say Egyptian cotton is under Muhammad Ali? The greatest. So the Egyptians build that Suez Canal that connects the Red, should have been capitalized R, Red Sea and the Mediterranean. This is the payoff. America is 3,000 miles. What this Suez Canal does is, by changing the path that ships have to travel, cuts off basically 5,000 miles off the trip. So that's well more than the distance that would have been that America covers. America. So you can see here, instead of going all the way around Africa, you go boom, 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 cut through. To this day, some of these areas are still controversial. To this day, these shipping ports, these shipping areas, very dangerous, very important, geopolitically significant. So here's the problem. You spend all that money to build a canal, to make yourself country modern. You have to borrow that money from somebody. You're borrowing from the British. The Egyptians can't pay it back. The British say, ooh, you know what we like? We like that canal. That canal is awesome. In Persia, Russia desires access to the Persian Gulf and Indian Ocean again, because those are warm. Most of the Russian ports cold. Oh, by the way, the British want oil, and Persian oil and Afghanistan. So Persia concedes to Western businesses. By concedes, they're allowing them to come in and kind of trade. Persian ruler sells concessions to export tobacco to the British. The Persian boycott tobacco leads to riots. These are those tobacco riots we're talking about. In 1907, wow, I can read. 1907, eventually the British and the Russian get tired of dealing with the Persians, and they say, all right, let's just take it over, and they split it in half, leading to incredible problems. Gee, I wonder why there's still problems today in Iran. So the Europeans grab territory. Basically, this is the whole PowerPoint in a nutshell. The Ottoman Empire in that region gets broken up. England gets India for its natural resources and large population. England gets the Suez Canal, which gives them a huge advantage in international trade. They get control of parts of Persia for oil and tobacco. What does Russia get? Persia, parts of Persia for oil. Not Prince of Persia, that's somebody totally different. The Russians get in Persia oil, tobacco, and warm water ports. In Afghanistan, they get oil. Gee, what year was this PowerPoint made? Alright, peace. Have a good day. By the way, the cheat word today to know that you watch this is I want you to ask me about the movie Prince of Persia. Thanks. Bye.